Welcome back. We're redoing the Buffalo Bills season preview because my dog ruined the first one. Alongside with me for this one is the biggest Bills fan in Canada, Mr. Joe Camilleri. Joe, let's talk about the coaching change in Buffalo this season.
Well, last year the Bills ended the season at 6-10, and it was obvious changes needed to be made. Fired was three-year man Chan Gailey. He exited with a 16-32 record. Incoming now, Doug Marrone. Syracuse man, he brings with him his offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, defensive coordinator Mike Pettine from the Jets. Hackett looks to bring in a new no-huddle offense that hasn't been seen in Buffalo since the early 90s, leading us into the 2013 Buffalo Bills offensive depth chart.
And the biggest question mark on the depth chart is at quarterback, where they spent their first-round pick on Florida State quarterback E.J. Manuel, who battled their free agent signee Kevin Kolb. Who do you like in this one?
Right now, E.J. Manuel has to be the leader. He's shown well in 2 preseason games, although he's just been diagnosed with a minor knee injury. He's had successful surgery, and it'll be to be determined if he'll be ready for Week 1. Coming into the Week 3 of the preseason, Kevin Kolb will start this weekend in Washington, and he will be backed up by free agent Jeff Tuel.
Yes, obviously a big blow if Kevin Kolb has to start the regular season as the number 1 quarterback, because E.J. Manuel has looked excellent to start the preseason. Now that, of course, was new GM Doug Whaley's first selection in the draft. He made a lot of selections on offense. Let's move to wide receiver, where he picked 2 new wide receivers out of USC, Robert Woods, and out of Texas, Olympian Marquise Goodwin.
With the wide receivers, the Bills have had something they haven't had in a long time. Speed, speed, and more speed. Drafting T.J. Graham last year, they went with speed. This year they landed Marquise Goodwin, a former track star with the American Olympic team. They have now sufficient deep threats with 2, even 3 receivers that can go deep and at any time.
And then you've got the always consistent Stevie Johnson, who's going to catch you between 60 and 70 catches and 1,000 yards every year.
Stevie was the last Bill to have 3 straight 1,000-yard receiving
The first
years.
Bill.
First Bill to have 3 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons. He ended off last year with 1,046.
Let's move over to tight end, where they got a bit of a question mark. They got Chamberlain coming off a torn ACL he suffered at the end of the year. Think he'll be ready for Week 1?
Well, he's progressing nicely. It's I messed up, Stalker.
All right, let's keep going.
Scott Chandler, that's the guy. Scott Chandler. He's coming off sufficient knee injury. He's had limited snaps so far through training camp. They say he looks to get anywhere from 6 to 7 series though this weekend in Washington.
And now to the offensive line, where it's anchored by Eric Wood, the center. The former first-round pick out of Louisville. Has been solid as a pro, but has dealt with injury problems at times. So if he can stay healthy, that's going to be a big plus for the Bills, keeping their quarterback upright and opening up some running lanes.
Right now, the tentative offensive depth chart looks like Corey Glenn playing left tackle, Colin Brown playing right guard, Eric Wood starting at center, Craig Urbeck starting at right guard, and Eric Pierce starting at right tackle. Waiting in the wings, though, would be Doug Legursky, who the Bills also picked up during the free agency this last offseason.
And he could win the starter's job at left guard if Colin Brown falters at all. But what do you think about Eric Pierce? Is he starting caliber? Because I remember on the Raiders, he struggled a lot and didn't look like more than a swing tackle.
Well, that's always been one of the Bills' Achilles back heels for the last few seasons, and that's keeping the quarterbacks upright. Protection game, it's always, like I said, been one of the problems in Buffalo. Hopefully this group of 5 does a good job this year. Keeps the touches down on E.J. Manuel and Kevin Kolb. Gives them sufficient time to pass the ball. But the one thing the Bills have had success at over the last couple of years is the running game. They've always been one of the league's top offensive rushers as a unit with C.J. Spiller and Fred Jackson.
I think C.J. Spiller could be a dark horse for the MVP this year. I think he's if he stays healthy, he could go for 2,000 all-purpose yards. He could even have an Adrian Peterson-like season where he goes for 2,000 yards rushing and carries the Bills into the playoffs.
Last year, he ended up last year with 1,244 yards rushing, and he had almost 500 yards receiving. So those 2,000 yards combined offense is not a far stretch this year, because already Nathaniel Hackett has said CJ Spiller will get the ball till he doesn't want the ball no more this year.
Yes, he's getting it till he pukes, I believe was the exact quote.
That's his exact words.
And then you got Fred Jackson, who would be one of the better backups in the NFL, a former Pro Bowl running back. Let's flip over to the defense and start with the defensive line, which could be one of the NFL's best this season. Starting in the middle is Marcel Darius and Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams has been injury plagued the last couple years. I know all Bills fans out there are hoping that he returns to his Pro Bowl form from a couple years ago. You add those two guys clogging the middle with Alex Carrington now playing on the left side of the defensive end, and then you have the $100 million man, Mario Williams, who can play end on the 4-3, and if he slip into the 3-4, he moves out to the outside linebacker position.
Alex Kerrigan's a player who really picked up his game the second half of last season, really earned that starting job and forced the release of Mark Anderson.
I was just actually reading one of the Bleacher Reports, and Alex Carrington won the most improved player through training camp this year.
Let's move to the linebackers, where the Bills spent their second-round pick on Oregon thumper Kiko Alonso.
Kiko battling a little bit of injury right now. He played in the first game against Indianapolis. He was in on 5 tackles for unlimited snaps. They also bring in Manny Lawson this year, and they have Nigel Bradham, who's right now looking like he's tentatively going to be suspended for a couple games. Waiting in the wings, though, is Arthur Moats. Arthur Moats has been a Bill the last few years, and they're looking really at this young group. And with this young group, they see a lot of promise. Thus, why they released Nick Barnett last year. They let him go to free agency.
That's my one concern with the unit is, do you feel Alonso can cover the pass, cover the middle of the field?
Yeah, I really think he did. I really think he can. This guy is a stud linebacker. He's going to be as good as they come. I think you'll see that over the next 3 to 5 years.
So I really think he's going to be a good run-stopping linebacker. I just have questions about his pass coverage. Let's move down to the secondary. We'll start with the recently signed franchise player, Jarius Byrd.
Jarius just signed his franchise tag a couple days ago. The rumors going through Bills land is he's still not happy. He hasn't formally come out and requested a trade, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Bills dealt him sooner or later during the season this year.
I was surprised they didn't give him a deal for. They should have signed him to an extension before this got carried out of hand, because he's the best free safety in the NFL right now. They should have shown him the money, I believe.
He's a great free safety, but no surprise to me that he took a couple weeks of
training camp off. No players want to go through it. They want to take as little bumps and bruises as possible throughout the training camp. We have 1 week left before the one more preseason game after this week. So, this gives him plenty of time to come in, learn Pettine's new defensive schemes, and he'll be ready to play week 1 versus the Patriots. And starting across from him at the strong safety is former corner and former second-round pick out of Texas, Aaron Williams. Another surprise through camp this year. At a new position this year. Aaron Williams had a great training camp, and they look for big things for him this year. Yes, he certainly got the talent and the pedigree to play up to those expectations. And now we move outside where it's 2 former first-round picks. We'll start with Leotis McKelvin. Leotis coming off injuries. He's had some injuries the last couple of years as well. Between him and second-year player Stephon Gilmore, both have had pretty good training camps. Gilmore has been the number 1 in training camp. They'll look for him to lead the secondary this year, along with Jarius Byrd, as long as he is a Bill. The main thing that this team's going to have to do this year is step up on the defensive level. As me and you were talking before we started filming, the Bills finished 6-10 last year. 7 of the 10 Bills losses, opponents scored 35 points or more.
You cannot win many football games when you're giving up 35 plus points on defense. That will need to change this year.
And Stephon Gilmore, he really improved throughout the season. He was very good in run defense the entire year, but he gave up some pass interference and some big gains early in the season, and those were limited throughout the rest of the season. Now let's move to special teams, where the Bills made news by releasing Ryan Lindell this week, their longtime kicker, and replacing him with their draft pick out of Florida State, Dustin Hopkins.
Only one concern they have with Dustin Hopkins, you know he can hit a consistent 45, 50-yard field goal. He's got a very good leg. The one concern with him is his kickoffs. I've noticed so far with the Indy game that I watched and the Viking game that I watched, kickoffs, there's a few that don't make the end zone, and it sets up teams, starting from the 25, 30, and those 10 yards could be big. When you have your touchback, you're starting at the 20-yard line. He has to be more consistent on kickoffs and have that kickoff return to touchback ratio in his favor, where he gets the touchbacks.
And when you're not getting them in the end zone, you're giving the returner the opportunity to run up and catch the ball on the run and get an even bigger return, which could be costly. So you have to wonder if the Bills don't ultimately bring in a kickoff specialist later in the season if they feel necessary.
Well, it leads into, especially into week one, you look at what the Patriots did this year. They brought in kick return specialist Leon Washington. And if Hopkins isn't able to land enough touchbacks on the kickoffs, Leon Washington is one of the NFL's best. He will be dangerous week one.
And now we're going to go to the punter, where the Bills have Hopkins' former Florida State teammate, Sean Powell.
Sean Powell took over last year from Brian Moorman. I thought Brian Moorman, and I still think Brian Moorman is one of the best punters still in the NFL. He was very consistent. He was always pinning guys deep inside the end zone. That's one reason I think why the Bills had some success is because of his punts. He pinned teams deep inside the 20-yard line several times. And as an offensive guy yourself, if you start inside the 20-yard line, start inside your own 20-yard line, it's a long field. So when you got teams starting, from their 10, 11, 12-yard line after a beautiful punt, Sean Powell is going to have to do that this year, where he goes in, he lands consistent punts inside the 20, pins opponents deep, and lets the Bills defense. I think the Bills defense, they're going to have a bend but don't break defense this year. They have some young guys like we talked about, so there is going to be some growing pains with that, with Alonzo, with Aaron Williams moving into a new position, Stephon Gilmore, he's still young, so that defense is going to need time. And I think with a consistent punting game, where they punt the ball deep inside the opponent's, say 20-yard line, that defense is going to have a chance to bend and not break.
It's going to be much like that Patriots-Jets game where you saw them give all the underneath stuff to Wes Welker but not get beat deep by Tom Brady, and that's ultimately what got the Jets to one of their 2 AFC championship games.
That's what it's going to be like. And then, the biggest concern right now, if you're a Bills fan, is the knee of E.J. Manuel. As we talked about earlier, if he comes in, are you going to have a quarterback in E.J. Manuel where it's going to be like a Russell Wilson kind of guy, or is it going to be like a Ryan Tannehill kind of guy where, you see Russell Wilson, threw for 3,500 yards last year. He had a successful year as a rookie. Or are you going to have the growing pain kind of guy like Christian Ponder, like Ryan Tannehill? So that's going to be interesting to see if you're a Bills fan.
Yes. It's something that all Bills fan wants to see is Marquise Goodwin returning kickoffs this year. He was explosive in his debut against the Colts in the preseason game, where he took one to the house and almost had a second one go the distance. So what do you expect from him this year?
Well, like I just said, as a Bills fan, there's renewed hope this year. We have a young quarterback which shows us hope. We don't have this old quarterback, that's, we signed a 6-year deals, and we have a young quarterback that leaves us with hope. We have these young 3 receivers. We have Goodwin, we have Woods, we have T.J. Graham. We have Marcus Easley still in the fold. Chris Hogan is still there. Brad Smith. So we have a good, Stevie Johnson. So we have a good mix at receiver, where you have the old and we have the younger kids. And then at running back, same thing. You have the older Fred Jackson. You have the younger C.J. Spiller. So, like I said, there's hope in Buffalo now. You have young guys that you build around on defense. You have young guys where you build around on offense. And Doug Whaley's slowly going to start to put his stamp on this team. And once he starts to put his pieces together, you're going to see the Bills not drafting in the top. Well, you're going to see them drafting anywhere from, hopefully 20 to 25 instead of drafting anywhere from, like they have been the last few years, 5 to 10.
Yeah, and another couple of receivers that could be interesting in camp are former Tennessee Volunteer Derek Rogers, who went undrafted largely because he got kicked out of school, and you saw 2 Tennessee Volunteers go in the top 34 picks this year.
Well, just reading early on about Derek Rogers, that's the main concern with him is his mental
His maturity level.
His mental immaturity level. Yeah, there's no question he has the talent, but is he mentally ready to play? And is he matured enough to play football at a professional level, day in, day out? Where you're practicing every day, you're in film, you're devoted to football every day. Is he ready for that? And right now, he's battling right now for one of those last receiver spots.
Yeah, because if he doesn't make the team, he's going to end up on someone else's roster. Because I don't see him making it through waivers to the practice squad.
Yeah, he's either got to make the team or they're going to have to say goodbye to Derek Rogers because, like you said, he won't make it through waivers onto a practice squad.
And that leaves us now. Let's go to the punt returning, where it's Robert Woods versus incumbent Leotis McKelvin.
You have both. McKelvin did it last year.
McKelvin's been very good at it too in the past few years.
Yeah, he's had a couple where he's taken to the end zone. You have McKelvin, and you have Woods, and you also have, like you said, Marquise Goodwin. And we've mentioned how Marquise Goodwin looked with his kickoff returns this year, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if you saw him returning punts as well. So
that'd be highly entertaining if he did. I'm not so sold on Robert Woods as a returner. I just have this image from the Utah USC game where Woods got plastered on the return and was helped off the field and had to get the fingers waved to him and had to tell the trainer how many fingers was up before he could enter the game again. But let's go for predictions for the Bills this year.
Well, it's all going to come down to the injury of E.J. Manuel. If he is ready to start week 1, this team, I could legit see this team winning anywhere from 9 to 10 games this year. If E.J. Manuel doesn't start the game and he misses any kind of significant time early, I could see the Bills getting off to a slow start, and I could see them, winning maybe 6 games. So it's all going to come down to the offense. The offense is going to take time to get going early on. Like I said, it's a brand new offense. It's a brand new defense as well. It's going to take some time. It's unfortunate that they do start against the Patriots. The Patriots have won the division several years in a row. So it's a tough start for the Bills. Fortunately, it's at home. They've had some success with the Patriots at home. They've battled them hard the last couple of years. With a young defense and a new defensive coordinator, it's going to be tough to match up against Tom Brady. But looking a little bit further ahead, you have no Aaron Hernandez in the Patriots lineup.
No Gronk could be playing.
No Gronk. They're still very dangerous though with Stephen Ridley. They have Stephen Ridley there. They have Edelman. They have a couple of new young receivers.
Amendola, Blunt.
They're all there. So the
talented defense.
Just because the Patriots don't have Hernandez and Gronkowski, it does not mean they're not going to be dangerous. They're going to be very dangerous. I see the Patriots winning the division this year. I'm not sold on the Dolphins. I think the Bills, if everything goes good, the Bills could win 9-10 games. If everything in a perfect world, the Bills win 9 to 10 games this year, and they challenge for one of the wild card spots.
I agree. If E.J. Manuel starts all 16 games, I expect him to go 9-7. I think this is the second best team in the division. But I don't think the Patriots are going to be winning this division by 3-4 games like they have in the past. I think it's going to be 1 or 2 games that they win the division by. It's not going to be a big margin. But if Kevin Kolb starts, he's not much better than your former Bills quarterbacks Trent Edwards and J.P. Lossman, so that would almost kill their season and force them to be drafting back around the 10th slot again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with E.J. Manuel.
Like I said, I can see them winning 9 to 10 games. As a Bills fan, I'd love to have playoffs back at the Ralph this year. And we need to end the streak where the Bills are, I think, the longest-serving team that hasn't made the playoffs in the NFL.
Yeah, since 1999. Well, that's all for our preview. Hopefully you'll enjoy it.